welcome to Brunch with REC, another edition.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning and welcome.
Nice to start a Saturday morning with you guys.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen.
He's saying who's the best looking panel on Zoom right now. And it's this one right here.
Hey, it's Brunch with REC with your two favorite people in the whole wide world, Mr. Jas Takhar over here with Mr. Simeon, a.k.a. Simos Papailias. We got an amazing guest lined up today. It is the El Presidente of
El Comandante
of Royal LePage, Canada. Over 22,000 realtors. He is the go-to man when it comes to the media to get the stats, what's going on in the market, what's the forecast right across the nation. It is none other than Mr. Phil Soper, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes. But as always, what's going on, Simos? How's your week, brother? Well, how's your past 2 weeks? Because obviously Brunch live here on Facebook is every other Saturday. So how's your past 2 weeks?
You always do this to me.
Yeah.
And it will never happen.
What is it that I put you on the spot?
First,
Huh?
I have to say good
Yes.
morning
I got
to the REC Nation, Vancouver. I say good morning to Calgary, to Winnipeg, to Saskatoon, to Regina, Halifax, and everywhere in between, wherever you're logging in from. Mwah. Good morning. Thank you for choosing to be with us. I have been excellent. I have been busy. I have been blessed to do a truckload of business the last couple weeks. And today I am so excited for this convo. The reason we reached out to our president of our organization, Mr. Soper, is because obviously he's at the helm of the biggest voice in Canadian real estate, with the most representation in Canadian real estate. So if there's anybody who knows and is in charge of data across the country, this is the man who advises our government on housing. He advises CMHC on housing. He advises Canadian real estate. So just to the reason he's here today is because Jas and I had a conversation as to where are we? We're in spring. People are going to make decisions. People are going to do big business. People are going to be moving their money around, refis, this, that, the other. So with opportunities coming in the next 30 to 60 days, because we know what opportunities are coming, I think we think it's extremely timely and important for you to hear from the top of Canadian real estate, a guy who doesn't mince his word, a guy who doesn't, for lack of a better word, bullshit, because he doesn't need the bullshit.
Yeah.
He's in charge of it. So whatever he says is hung on to by the media. So he cannot come out and say this, but this happens. He's actually the only guy in the country who got the pandemic right.
I agree.
And that's on record everywhere.
Well, we're if you get a chance to go to our YouTube page, it's youtube.com/REC Canada. You'll see clips and videos and podcasts that we've done with Phil Soper in the past. I'm watching the chat group. I'm seeing where everyone's signing in. My team has told me, Jas, you're always on the phone when you're doing these brunches, but there's a reason for it. I'm trying to get my team to know. Stephen Rochester gave me a big X a couple of weeks ago because he's like, you're always on your phone, but there's a reason. I told him, I'm like, Stephen, I'm watching the comments, buddy, in the chat group. We have, we got a little under 30 people that are on right now. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes before we bring on Mr. Phil Soper. Please, as you always do, Lisa Oatway, how you doing from Bolton? Andrew from London. Jennifer, let us know where you're signing in from. And it's always nice to see Tina and Robin. And we got Heather Riley coming in from Burlington. We always get our West Coast people coming in a couple of minutes late sometimes, just a couple of minutes late. Tell us what you're having. You having coffee, tea? Are you eating while you're watching us? Do you watch us on your phone? Do you watch us on your TV? Because our moms and our kids actually love when they see the two daddies. Oh, Simos's volume is a little low, so make sure you're talking into the mic. I'm getting the comments here.
Let us know, please.
And that's really hard to keep Simos's volume low.
You know what I mean?
It's very tough to.
I haven't heard that in a while.
Fixing his mic right in the shot. As always, we want to give a big shout out to Pamela and Rachel. Rachel, let us know how Ottawa market's doing. Put that in the comments. And if you're just signing on and you didn't hear who our guest is, it is the president and CEO of Royal LePage Canada. Royal LePage Canada is Canada's largest franchise with over 22,000 real estate agents. And REC Canada, if you didn't know, is under the umbrella of Royal LePage. And so it's always a treat to have Phil on. In fact, we were in
Can I give a quick shout out, please, to
buddy.
Rachel Hammer?
Go.
Rachel Hammer. Rachel Hammer.
Hot in Ottawa, she says.
If you can hear me right now, I just want to give you a big round of applause. Rachel Hammer is going to be heading a considerable amount of our REC collaborations in her local market.
Love it.
For our clients and our community that is watching, Rachel Hammer is going to be, when you call the REC and ask, I'm building my power team in Ottawa, I'm looking at income properties, I'm looking at new development. Rachel has put together 6 deals in the last week to her client base based on actual inventory carried from relationships here that she got first access to.
I love that.
So if you are in Ottawa and you like development, the person you're going to call Rachel Hammer. That is our rep in that city.
Before you call Rachel
REC
Hammer,
approved.
just to that, before you call Rachel Hammer, I think it's a great segue, right? Make sure to send the email to info@reccanada.com because our boy Tyler Ty Walburn, who's I already see in the comments, he is your real estate concierge.
Right.
We were just having a conversation with our partner and broker here, Mr. Christopher Slidham, and we were speaking about that. We all have to do a better job in relaying all the resources that our clients have.
Yes.
And we were saying that it's actually our fault because we don't talk about it enough.
Yes.
You know, I think sometimes people will say, well, Jas, you're a little obnoxious. Simos, you're a little obnoxious because you guys, or a lot. You guys are all over the place. I mean, you guys do 20, 23 pieces of content a day on all the platforms. But obviously, not everyone knows that anyone watching right now that is an REC insider, I hope you understand this, guys. You have a real estate concierge at your service at no cost. It doesn't cost you a penny. If you need a plumber in Vancouver, if you need an electrician in Halifax, you need a realtor to be a second set of eyes on your lease agreement in Ottawa. If you need
full service.
If you need someone to clean like your yard and your shovel your snow in Calgary, I guess there's a reason I'm saying that because is Red Deer still getting like what's the weather there? Simos.
It's actually where I'm trying to share the Facebook feed to my timeline.
Okay,
I wish I could have a moment.
You do that. I want to come back to letting every REC insider that's watching right now, live or the recording, because I know thousands of you watch the recording. Big shout out to you guys. I know you couldn't join us live, but thank you for watching the recording. All you have to do is shoot out an email to info@reccanada.com, and in the subject line we make it really easy. Say, I need a plumber in London, Ontario. I need a realtor in Edmonton, Alberta to look at my lease agreement. There's no cost for it. Now, you might be wondering, why in the heck would you do that? Well, I'm going to peel back the curtains on REC Canada's business development today. Why would we do that? We figure that if we offer that much value upfront, we offer that much value upfront when you need other real estate advice. We're hoping that you reach out to us. And when you purchase something with us, or we help you sell a property or invest into a property, well, that's how we get paid. And so it keeps the lights on. It's never a bother if you reach out to your real estate concierge. And it's Tyler, actually, who heads our division. He has a couple of the crew, Luke and Carolina, that also
in this
help
community
him.
Knows Ty. They love Ty, and Ty is
I'm
genuinely
seeing some new faces here, buddy.
You have a ton of new
man.
faces, but I just want to say that there's not many people who love, like Tyler loves people. He loves to be of service.
Yeah,
so we literally took this guy when he was, I don't know, 20 years old,
22 to be exact.
22 years old, from Jack Astor's,
right
because
downstairs.
He delivered us service that we had never seen before. We're like, what the hell is this kid doing right here? So we're like, do you want to do something different, but as pleasing to you as this? And he said, yeah, I do.
I would.
And he has, and he never stopped since. And he's grown to the man he is today inside our organization, probably the biggest and most key role. He's our face to every single one of our community members.
Well, you can't mention Tyler and then not mention why he's that person as well. It's a big shout out to his beautiful wife.
Cassandra.
Cass, I mean,
And the little
it's Cass.
Oompa Loompa
and
that he has at home?
God, that
Little Nora?
that little Nora. Can't wait to spend more time with her. Can't wait to spend more time with Tyler. Tyler's all he's doing everything remote from home, which actually brings up another point. I still want to know where you're signing in from. We're going to give it a few minutes. Mr. Phil Soper, President and CEO of Royal LePage Canada, Canada's largest real estate franchise, is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking like Brunch with REC is where real estate conversations happen, and we're going to go very high level and micro. So put your questions, guys. That's why I have my phone with me right now. I'm watching these comments. It's one of my favorite things to do because I get to see all these names.
Broski, you're up to 60 people. I think we should bring them in.
We're going to bring him in. We're going to bring in Tyler. Sorry, we're not ready yet for Phil. Steven and Clem tell us at 10:45 he's going to be ready. That's awesome. Gives us more time. I mean,
okay, so why don't we go in a little bit? Yeah, so why don't we cover a little bit of what happened in the last week then?
Just before we do covering that, what I did want to do is to the 57, 60, 80 people that are going to, going on and off right now, do us a huge favor. The reason we do this live on Facebook is because it's actually very easy for you to share this with your friends and family. If you right underneath this actual video, to the right of the video, you'll see a little share button. Just click that button. It lets all your friends know that you're in real estate conversations right now. And then we get to meet some of your friends. Hopefully you're 100%. Okay with that. And let us know always. Oh, hello from Kingston. Who's coming in from Kingston here? Tyler's messaging, Margie. Let's talk about what happened this past week, buddy.
So we added a few more team members. So we had a big week for inside the family, and I'm talking about actual administrative, like your new executive assistant, right down to a few key salespeople that joined us in the West office to keep servicing that Mississauga and
so how
Brampton
many agents
market.
Do we have now? What do we have?
I think we're at 43.
Okay,
44.
Awesome.
Not including us.
Yeah.
So that's our actual sales force on the ground. But that Brampton and Mississauga market is straight out of control. When I say white hot, I don't think you can put a property up in Brampton right now. Literally, you're not going to put the sign up. Somebody will come and take the sign out of your goddamn hand.
Simos, my neighbor just sold this house. Okay, so neighbor just sold this house. We bought this home in 2017. Okay, so what is that? 4 years ago. Bought this property in 4 years ago, and bought it for about $800,000. Okay, it just sold for 1.8 million.
It's messed up.
1.8 million. Let's talk about days on market. When you talk about Brampton specifically,
and by the way, I don't like this shit, and I'm gonna say it straight like it is. I don't like a market that's this hot. It's a dangerous place, and I hate it.
Our sellers love it. Our sellers love
obviously,
it. Obviously,
and so do the buyer. The buyer's not paying it because they hate it.
Exactly.
But I'm saying, like, when values are skyrocketing and the supply is so scarce, it just creates silliness. It creates bad practices. Anyways, I don't like it. I'm going to talk about why I don't like it, and then we're going to ask Phil what he thinks of it.
100%, 100%, right? You mentioned, I mean, the media that goes to Phil. I mean, he not only does the media. It's not only just the media, but we have CMHC, we have the major banks. They bring in Mr. Phil Soper to help them with new rules and new laws. But just jumping back to Brampton, days on market right now in Brampton is at 3 weeks. It's, to be exact, it's 24 days. Sorry, not days on market, months of inventory. I apologize. Months of inventory right now is
point.
It's actually at 24 days to be exact.
So if not a single listing came up as of tomorrow, within 24 days, the city of Brampton would have nothing for sale. That is not normal.
Yep.
It is not a balanced market.
I agree.
It is an extreme seller's market, meaning that the supply constraint is costing the price, is putting such pressure on prices. The trajectory is literally a vertical. So it is not a stable that creates volatility in the marketplace. It can create government intervention, so all the things that we don't want. Every time the government touches something, as everybody knows, everybody can have their opinion of our government, and it doesn't matter which color is in house. When government puts their hand in, shit breaks and shit falls apart. So the least government intervention as possible is what we're looking for. And right now we're headed towards a government intervention.
Yeah, look, the last time that the government intervened was 2017 when they came out with the Fair Housing Plan. And it really, like now looking at it 4 years later, it was a complete band-aid, right? What happened back then? Okay, they came out with a bunch of new rules. What was it, 16 points, I believe, a new 16 point Fair Housing Plan that they came out with. And for about 4 months, buyers put their hands in their pocket and didn't really make any large purchases, i.e. homes and condos. The market was still moving, but not at the speed it was before the Fair Housing Plan came out. But it lasted 3 to 4 months. And then the same old story. Value started to continue up again. Why? Because every time that the government intervenes, and Phil will have his points on this as well, and I would love to hear his opinion. Every time that the government so far has intervened, it's always on the demand side of the equation.
Well, they take away the money.
They make it harder, right? They make it harder.
It's the only thing they can do.
Exactly.
So instead of fixing the problem,
which is what?
Creating supply, creating housing,
and allowing it to be easier. You guys have heard us say this thousands of times. It takes 10 years for a builder to put in an application for the building to be built. 10 years. Manhattan's at 2 to 3 years. I mean, if Manhattan can figure it out, so can we. We can all walk and talk and chew gum at the same time.
Well, it doesn't seem that we can. But again, Phil is literally an expert on this.
Yeah.
Let's bring him in to weigh in on this because it's huge. But government intervention is not what we want. And in my opinion, unless something changes, it's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to come and blow out the mortgages again, make it harder for difficult, and take the pressure off that way.
Well, either that, or they're going to bring some type of, what they're talking about right now is capital.
Who's the good-looking man right there?
Well, I see the good-looking man as myself, but it's also Mr.
Morning, guys. How are you?
How are you doing, Mr.? How are you doing, Joe?
We already started jibber jabbering, so we figured we better get you in here before we get fired.
Well, you know what, you guys are good. I am glad you were saying it, not me.
It was really a treat to be in a Clubhouse room with you a couple of days ago. Just love hearing your voice. For all the insiders, if you don't know what Clubhouse is an audio only app on iPhone. It is a phenomenal place to practice what we like to call N-E-T. No extra time is needed. You can be running on the treadmill. You could be taking your dog for a walk and being in conversations that you normally wouldn't be in. Now, if you're not on Clubhouse, all you have to do is just shoot us an email, but you do have to have an iPhone, unfortunately, right now.
Or an iPad.
Or an iPad. Thank you for that, Phil. Just shoot a quick little email to info@reccanada.com between myself and Simos and our team. It's an invite-only app. We'll send over an invite. There is thousands upon thousands of rooms where real estate conversations are also happening right across the world. It is heavily focused in North America, but you get to be part of conversations that you normally wouldn't be. It's called Clubhouse. Shoot us an email at info@reccanada.com. But in that conversation, and I'm sure, Phil, every single day, 10 times to 15 times over, you're talking about probably the same thing. What's going on in the Canadian market, Phil?
It is the most unusual of years. I just finished writing my letter to shareholders. We're a big public company, as you know, and every year in March, I sit down and I write my little letter, which kind of recaps what was. So it makes you reflect on the year past. And I really think it was the strangest year of all time in Canadian real estate. If you think, Jas, you were talking about the Fair Housing Act. After that came federal legislation at the beginning of 2018 to protect people from a sharp rise in interest rates, which we call Guideline B20, the mortgage stress test. So those two things really did put our housing market in Ontario and BC. Those were the two big parts in the country. It
forced
correction
out of the sales.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a really kind of slow down market. People think, it's always hot. Its prices are always going up by 15%. Well, that wasn't the case from 17 through to about the third quarter of 19. And we were just getting the motor running at the beginning of 2020. Sales were up at this time last year. Well, not this time, but in January, February, and the first week of March, about 40% over what they'd been in the same period in 2019. I mean, happy days were here again. Volumes were turning over. Home prices were rising, but not too quickly. And then, of course, the tsunami, which was the pandemic, hit our economy. We had to shut down. Everybody went home. All your staff went home. A few people stayed out there. You guys stayed out there because even though volumes fell by 2/3 in the GTA, that means 1/3 of transactions, which is still thousands of transactions, happened at the very in the very darkest days of the pandemic. We didn't remember back then. We didn't know whether we're going to get it from doorknobs or it was really great.
Our food packages. We were
right,
worried about
exactly.
I was cleaning all my food packages at home. Right?
Exactly.
I remember gloves at the gas station.
Yeah. We just didn't know, but you were out there, and that's why I called you guys midline essential workers. I didn't want to insult our medical professionals or even those at the grocery store, who are making minimum wage and they never got to go home. They were there every day with people breathing on them and everything. Oh my God, heroes, absolute heroes,
100%.
Yeah. But they were frontline. You were midline. You were out there. You never went home. And then suddenly, May rolls around. March and April, you remember at Royal LePage, we implemented the pandemic fee relief plan, which cost me about $4 million, by the way.
Wow.
It was, but thousands, not you guys, because you're going to do great no matter what, but thousands of your colleagues. We're a big company, 20,000 people, thousands of people benefited from that relief plan during the March, April, and early May timeframe. But then, things came back. It came back in a way that few would have ever imagined. I heard you talking before I came on air about the lack of inventory. We normally 3 to 5 months is a good, healthy turning over market. Prices are rising at 5 to 10%. And suddenly we've got weeks, 3.5 weeks, something of inventory. So crazy year.
And so I was going to say, Phil, in certain parts of the GTA, we're seeing that it's less than actually 3 weeks, right? And so in terms of how crazy it's been in Toronto and really the greater Toronto area, we're used to this. We've seen this before. All these crazy multiple offers, very, very swayed towards sellers markets. It's the outside cities, the other cities that haven't been used to this, and so maybe we can touch on that a little bit because, I'm seeing Halifax having very low inventory. Yeah. We're seeing all really right across the nation. In fact, with the Clubhouse app, I'm seeing it right across the continent right now.
It's true.
Right? Low inventory. What would you what do you attest that to? Is it people leaving the major cities trying to get into the smaller cities? What's your thoughts around that?
Well, I come up with this hypothesis. I call it the 3 waves of the pandemic era. 3 waves of real estate demand. And we're in the second wave now, but just the very beginning of the second wave. The first wave is what I call the young. And
we're not talking about the COVID wave.
Yes, this is right. I'm using wave. That's a very good point, Sidney. I'm using wave because we talk about waves of pandemic. Well, there's also in parallel waves of real estate demand, I believe we'll be dealing with. So the first wave of real estate demand, nothing to do with COVID, but it was a tsunami of real estate demand, was driven by the young. And we've talked about that. The 3 of us on your Tuesday or Thursday night Brokers Playbook on Clubhouse. What our research shows was a huge spike in 25 to 35-year-olds getting into the real estate market. Investors were spooked. Investors who didn't have advisors like you telling them to sit tight. This is going to be over. And I know you did that. And I know the vast majority of your investors did. And now they're winning in the marketplace. But our research showed 40% of investors in the GTA tried to sell. Now, not all of them. This was an intent-based bit of research. 40%.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a huge number, right? Because we have potentially up to 30% of all condos in the city are owned by investors. They're essentially our suppliers of rental accommodation in Canada's biggest city. So we need investors because we need a healthy economy, a healthy society, a healthy real estate market has owned homes and homes for rent. We need rental accommodation. Mm-hmm. So that first wave saw these young people, because the first thing was COVID created an urgency in them to buy houses. You go, what does that mean? Well, it was their living situation. If they were at home, they might have had a bedroom. They're in a house which suddenly has both parents at home, and they're kind of sticking around. Like Vancouver, I'll give you a stat. 34% of Vancouver households at the end of the teens, coming into 2020, 34% of Vancouver households that had kids in this age bracket had 35-year-olds still at home. So a third of the families in Vancouver, their 35-year-olds hadn't left home yet. It's really expensive in that. I mean, that's nuts. So I left home at 18, and my place was pretty good. You know, I can't say I had a pretty. It wasn't cushy, but it was sweet and loving upbringing. I didn't leave because I was being beaten with a stick or anything. I left because, hell, at 18, I wanted to get out of there. You know, I wanted freedom. Well, kids in our generation, they like my kids, they stuck around longer. Anyway, so if you're in your parents' bedroom and suddenly the whole household, your little sister is taking school at home and both your parents are taking Zoom calls, you're going insane. So a 500 square foot condo looks like Casa Loma. Right. I mean, you are just so pumped, and prices are.
No, Casa Loma is a beautiful castle.
Exactly right. So and prices have dropped, and prices never drop in Toronto, right? And they did drop. They didn't drop a lot, maybe 6%, depending on which week you were looking at. They were softer, and interest rates fell to the lowest level in history. And of course, no one buys a property, especially in the early part of your home buying career, based on the sticker price. You buy it based on what you can afford per month, the rent equivalency. So your rent rate's fallen, the price is fallen, and you're getting a 500 square foot castle that's your own. You are so pumped. You are so happy. And COVID did that. The pandemic did that. There's subtleties, right? Young people were less worried about the effects of the disease. And so they were willing to get out there during those dark days when only you guys were in the streets and the streets were empty.
Yeah. And you could literally shoot a cannon through King Street.
Oh my God. I took one flight to New York in May. I've got pictures. Me in front of Pearson, no cars. And my wife dropped me off. There's nothing. And it's like, 1 p.m., nothing. I go into Pearson and I go into those massive lineups you have to get to the States through, I said to the guy, I guess I don't need to, use my Nexus. He goes, no, you don't. And I walk in and the whole thing is empty. The entire immigration area is empty. There's one border guard there. I walked up to him. He woke up. He let me through. On the plane, I think there was 4 of us to LaGuardia. And so I fly in. I get off the plane. It is empty. The entire airport is empty. I needed to rent a car. No one in the rental car plane. Anyway, you get the picture. Yeah, so that was May. The kids were in the streets buying houses, though. See, that's the thing, because they needed to and they wanted to. And so we found that in that that 9-month period, call it 8.5 to 9-month period, the home ownership rate in that youngster group rose to 50%, 48%, half of kids.
This is data, real data driven.
Real data, absolutely. Real data. 48% of kids now own their own home in this country. This is national. And 25% of them bought in those 8 months. So it was an amazing rush of young people into home ownership. And what they did is they snapped up properties from those investors who were spooked because rent rates were falling. They didn't have advisors like you saying, hang on, this is temporary. They got spooked, and they were probably strung out, right? They probably needed Phil, rents here, or they were not going to be able to pay their mortgage.
What I want to remind everyone, because this is so well documented inside our REC brunches, the first thing when this happened, it was literally 30 days in when me and you were literally at home, each other, like Jas is at home, I'm at home, we're on our virtual office, and we're talking, we're like, what the hell is happening? What the hell just happened? And we literally, that day was 50, it wasn't even 30 days into the pandemic.
Yeah, really early.
We looked at each other and we said, no. Because everybody's crying foul, crisis, disaster, we're going to collapse, all these things. And me and Jas are like, we were having conversations like, are we going to let go of our people? Are like, what are
we going to do?
Here?
What are you going to do?
Okay. And literally, we looked at each other and said, this is a health crisis. They shut down the airport. They shut down industry. They shut down the highway. They shut down whatever the fuck they shut down.
Yeah.
But this is not a housing crisis. We are in the housing
or an economic crisis, really.
Or an economic crisis. It's going to create an economic crisis based on whatever actions are taken, but that's different. It's not an organic housing or economic crisis.
It's a health crisis.
It is a health crisis that manufactured a stop in activity across all business, including housing, that created the pent-up demand we saw July 1 to October, which was madness. But the reason we called it is not because we're smart. The reason we called it is because we were able to differ. And you, my friend, I said before you came on, were the only voice of Canadian economics and housing, because you advise policymakers, all shit aside, that actually got it right. And I don't think it's because you are smarter than every other economist. I think you and your vision, our vision on a much smaller scale, were able to differentiate a health crisis from a housing crisis. And the advice we gave to our investors and to our community was to hold your position, because not only is it going to come back, it's going to roar back.
And to that point, really quickly, Simos, it's not only because we knew that it wasn't an economic crisis or a housing crisis, but we also know that if you look back to the last 40 years, specifically in the GTA, or go back even a little bit further and say 100 years in real estate values go up and down, upwards. It was going to come back at some point. And to Phil's point earlier,
I like that. Up and down, upwards. It's true.
It's true, right? If we look at, like we should, I mean, for our next brunch, Stephen, let's make sure we have a graph that shows the last 100 years in the GTA Canadian market. You'll see little blips, but that's what that always happens. But these values go up. Just for everybody who's watching, please give us a thumbs up if our volume is good. Some are saying that Jas's volume's a little lower. Simo says, we're always trying to figure out our technology, and everyone is saying Phil's voice, which is the most important voice today here on Brunch with REC. His volume is perfectly fine. So just let us know. But to everybody who's watching, I mean, I don't think you need to be Nostradamus in the real estate market. Right?
Good line.
You don't need to be Nostradamus. You just need to know that, look, values are going to come back up. Now, the ones that sold, and I would love both of your guys' take on it, our REC insiders, I'm going to say as high as 98, 99, if not 100% of them. And if you're watching as an REC insider, please let us know with a thumbs up as well. Give us a heart, actually, now. Give us a heart if you kept your property, if you held on to your properties, because the ones that sold, in my opinion, guys, it was the investors that it was their first property. They never done this before. They didn't have the stomach for it, as you can tell. Simos and I both have the stomach for a lot of things. But
half a stomach.
Half a stomach now.
Half a stomach.
Simos
Baby
is
bird.
looking so good on screen. Look at him. But most of these investors that unfortunately sold, they just weren't prepared. They were not prepared for the long haul. Real estate is not an investment like a stock. You cannot day trade it. You cannot day trade.
Well, that's how you get hurt.
Well,
So
that's how
go
you
ahead
get
if that's
hurt.
what you want to do. And
Yeah.
if you are the guy you think you are, go make $1 trillion.
Yeah.
We are not that guy.
Yeah.
This
No.
house, the house of REC is about time in the market, not timing the market. You've heard us say it a million times. Time in the market. Do not time the market.
You can't time it, man. It's so hard to do. Phil, did you notice that as well? Like the guys and gals that you were listening to or conversations you were having, that most of the investors that sold were like, newbie investors, so to speak?
You guys would know that. You'd see them, you know them. I got the data at a higher level and sort of amassed it in Ontario and the GTA and nationally. But I will say, just to sort of round out the 3 waves of real estate demand, that first wave was stronger than we predicted. So yes, we did see a strong recovery after a dip. When house prices would soften, they drop a bit, and we thought policymakers would respond with very low interest rates. They went to historic lows. We thought young people would enter the market when they saw this opening, because in our biggest cities, they tend to think, gosh, I'll never own a home. And when they see a window in places like Vancouver and Toronto, they rush in. They rushed in 2009. We thought they'd rush in 2020, and they did. Now, so that's wave 1. And the other part of that wave, by the way, was not just buying investment properties and condominiums, which happened a lot, but it was also older young people, call it the 35 and older, moving to other neighborhoods, right? And that's what you asked at the beginning, Jas, was this movement from cities to suburbs to what Royal LePage calls it, exurbs, to even recreational property. And that occurred, but it was mostly skewed to younger buyers in the early stages. Stage 2 is what we call the older, because they're not all old. They're people who were good Canadian citizens who were told to shelter at home and avoid contact with others. And they said, we've got a house. It's nice. It's we can be on different floors for our Zoom calls, and it works fine. I want to change my living situation. I want to sell and buy, but I've been told by public health authorities I shouldn't right now do things that are voluntary. So I'm waiting, and that waiting is over. And we're seeing that now. We started to see it as the year clicked over and 2021 started. So the older buyers are starting to loosen up. And I do believe in the second wave, as that first wave of the young, the older are going to sustain this through 2021. And then the third wave of real estate demand in the pandemic era, I believe, will be the new. And the new will be the return of temporary residents in Canada, which predominantly are foreign students. We have almost 1 million of them in this country. They are going to drive investor demand because they're going to drive rental demand. 1 million people, that's massive in a country our size, that have been missing since the spring of 2020. They're coming back, and they're going to be back full strength by September. And investors know that. So that plus immigration, and we know we missed our immigration target by a massive amount in 2020 with the border closed. The government's going to make up for that. And so we're going to have 3 years at above 400,000 new Canadians that'll be entering the country. And we know they, from our research, in the first 3 years of their time here, they tend to rent condos, and they tend to rent condos in big cities. So, and the biggest place that they settle to rent is in the GTA. So that the new, the young, the older, the new is going to sustain this wave as one peters out, because we will price young people out of the market with the way prices are going, and that demand will get satisfied. There's only so many people that can get through the stress test that can actually put together the down payment and get through. So that demand will be satiated, but it doesn't mean it ends there. Then we've got the older who are shifting. They're moving to places like Moncton or Barrie or North Bay or Sarnia. It's amazing where people are moving to, not just to Muskoka. And that's going to create a lot of activity. And then we have the new. And so those three waves, I believe, will take this unusual period of uncomfortably high home price appreciation and very high activity levels and imbalance with more demand than supply, probably out 2 years from when it started. So we're probably going to get through the spring of 2022 before we see relief, and things essentially they'll return to normal, and it'll feel like a big slowdown.
Sorry, go ahead, Jas.
Lots to
Are you?
do you guys hear Phil?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, awesome. I thought I had lost you there for a second, Phil. I was going to say there's a lot to unpack there. You said 400,000. I wanted to make sure everybody heard the 400,000.
That's funny. I was just going to ask him to summarize in the sentence because that was a 2-year outlook.
Yeah. And so it's a 400,000. It's 400,000
per year. 410 to 420,000 new Canadians are going to be invited in this year, 2021. 2022, another 410 to 420, and in 2023, another 410 to 420. So 1.2 million plus people over a 3-year period, and they've been waiting, man. You've seen my Captain Canada stuff on how well brand Canada does on the planet. During the last decade, we have just skyrocketed as a nation in the eyes of the world. Number one country 5 years in a row, quality of life as measured by the Wharton Business School. The Economist rates us number 2 best country in the world after Switzerland. I don't know what Switzerland's got going, but I know one thing they don't have.
Great chocolate. They got great chocolate.
Chocolate and skiing.
And watches.
Yeah,
and watches.
Yeah, beautiful watches. Yeah. No, you're probably not wearing an ugly old iWatch, are you? Or Apple Watch, Simeon. You got something beautiful. You got a Patek.
Not today. Today I'm wearing. I went with a little Mont Blanc.
Oh, a little Mont Blanc. Well, there you go. Still Swiss. Anyway, yeah, but you know what the home ownership rate is in Switzerland?
What's that?
About 25%.
Wow.
Banks don't tend to lend money to individuals to buy a house.
Guys, it's only in Canada that somehow renting has this connotation to it like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying.
It's true.
I grew up in Greece. Nobody asks, do you rent or own? Oh, you rent.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What in the
look?
Who do you guys understand the privilege that land ownership is on the rest of the planet? In Canada, people expect the dream of home ownership in Canada, and kudos to Canada for having the home ownership rate that it has. But like, you actually think if I grew up in Greece, I have an expectation that I can buy Athenian real estate? The real estate there's been around for 4,000 years, bud.
Yeah, I know.
You touch the wrong pebble. You just cost yourself $1 million. Literally, like, there's real estate around the Acropolis. Who do you think owns it?
Right.
Families for centuries.
So
right.
it's passed down.
So,
Yeah,
so
totally
like
different.
the home ownership is viewed differently across the world. I think the Switzerland fact is huge. So I think Canada, and again, go to Captain Canada. Why do people want to live here? Because if you live in Mumbai, where real estate's $8,000 a foot downtown,
Yeah.
if you're in Shanghai, if you're like, people think of these global, to come here and actually have a shot at getting a home, people long for it. People dream about it.
And you could do it with 20% down
Correct.
if you're an investor, but you
5%
could do
down.
it with 5% down here.
Did I tell you a little story that's kind of fun?
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever told you I lived in Mumbai. So after university, I took a job there, lived for a year. So when I became CEO, I thought, we did do some international expansion. We expanded in the US, expanded into Europe. We had businesses in Portugal, and just a historical accident why we started there, and in Mumbai. So we decided to give it a shot in India, and it didn't work. I'll tell you how real estate brokerage works in India still to this day. You go to to a tower, because everybody lives in flats, right? You don't have a single family home. You go to a tower, and there's your guy who usually hangs out in the lobby, and he's the guy for the building. He's the realtor. They're not realtors, of course. There's no MLS. There's no real estate. But so not cool. He's the guy. And if you own a flat in a building and you want to sell it, you go to that cool and you say, geez, I want to sell my flat. And he goes, oh, the market, it's so bad. I'll do my very best, sir. But, I might be able to get you 10 million rupees.
I know where this is going.
Yeah. And then in trots Ms. Buyer and says, I'd love a flat in your building, not cool. And he goes, oh, they're so dear. Almost nothing for sale. She says, I might be able to get you one for 12 million rupees. And so they don't know the price, the buyer and the seller. Not cool sits in the middle and he negotiates the arbitrage between the two. And because about 50% of real estate transactions are done with suitcases of rupees, so about 50% is electronic through the banking system, 50% is cash to avoid taxes. You don't know what properties sell for. And we had a real estate company. So here we are, the national, our Brookfield real estate brokerage firm. And then we've got our local manager in a region of Mumbai. And then we've got Nakul. Well, Nakul cheats our manager because half the deal's in cash, right? So why would any sensible person declare that to the government or to the company? And the manager, he takes his little, because a lot of it gets done in cash. And then we, the poor little scrub clean, accounting driven Brookfield, are counting our money and wondering how this great market could leave us with 10 cents on the dollar. There was no way to make money there. So now Brookfield, another division, has done amazing things in residential property development in India. So giant multi-purpose office towers and residential living on the development side. But on the brokerage side, we said no. We'll focus on Canada. That's a nice place to do business.
My family's from the state of Punjab in India.
The great
state of Punjab.
The great state of Punjab. The breadbasket of India.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for that. But
we stand united, farmers.
As we have squatters right here for 25 years, I believe, in Canada. In India and villages, it's probably 25 minutes. So you got to be very careful in places like that. I want to go back, and for everybody who's joining us, we have Mr. Phil Soper, President and CEO of Canada's largest real estate company, Royal LePage. We're talking about all things real estate. It's Brunch with REC, which happens every other Saturday live here on Facebook at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. It's the place where real estate conversations and discussions happen with your two favorite people in the whole wide world, Jas and Simos. Big shout out to our team as well. Simos, you got something for Phil. Go ahead, my man.
I have two questions, Phil, that I want to touch on, and I don't want to. I want this to be conversational because I want our audience to also become a little bit involved in this. So to our community, I want to touch up a little bit on a commercial outlook, and I want to touch up on, so I'm not going to start with commercial. This is where I want to go. New home outlook. We talked about the immigration that's lagging and what Canada is going to do about it and bring it back. So I'm going to ask, for me personally, to somebody who I think, so I respect your opinion more than you would ever know. And it seems like a lot of the country does as well. So I'm going to come out and ask it. And I'm not looking for a crystal ball or a commitment. As a man who has the access to data that you do. Okay. And we know as a fact, as guys, our team has been selling real estate for 15 years in this city. We know the demand. We know it's white hot. Some people are saying, what's going to happen? How can this go on, etc. I don't pay attention to that. I just don't. So I know that the minute Pearson opens and immigration starts, I know when University of Toronto and Ryerson and every other educational facility in the country says we're back in business in September or we're back in business in January. I don't care if it's in the next 4 months or in the next 12 months. It's going to be like tomorrow. Okay. So when life resumes its role in the next little while, the vaccine rollout is happening, and this is imminent. Are we in for a 30% pickup? Like, should our community, when I go out to meet with one of my clients, should I be saying, buddy, let's get into some real estate right now? Or should I be saying, let's pick up a property, let's take it easy and see what happens? How should we, what kind of advice? You're advising me, Phil.
Yeah.
You know what, Simeon? I'm feeling that I need to be buying anything that is for sale right now because I think we're going to skyrocket this.
Yeah, but you're aggressive, right? You're an aggressive investor, right? And so
it's fair.
From that perspective,
you'd be doubling down on Tesla if
if he had
the
a lot
stock
of Bitcoin.
market was your game.
If I had a lot of Bitcoin.
A lot of Bitcoin, exactly. But you know what? And you'll be a rich guy, and other people would have a heart attack before they ever got a chance to spend their money, right? So everybody's got a different risk tolerance. This is the way I look at it. If you look at demographics, the age of people in our country, and then you look at immigration policy, and that can change. Look what Donald Trump did. He almost sewered the American economy with his approach to immigration. You know, and sorry for a little segue here, they dropped to less than 3 times the number of immigrants during the Trump era that Canada has, and they're 10 times our size. The number of people that typically come to America is 10 to 1 because they're 10 times bigger. It dropped to about 2.6. Wow. It was falling so rapidly, and they have incredible labor shortages, especially in skilled jobs, technology, medical research. It's mind-boggling what a bad economic decision it was. Anyway, we've been on the right track. But if you take the age of our children who are already born and immigration, you know what's going to happen to housing demand. Because every year those kids get a year older. You know when they leave home. You know when they're going to need to put a home over their head. And right now we've got the millennial generation, who is the largest cohort of human beings in our history, just rolling into their first homes. Now, we had a huge spike in ownership in 2020 in this group, but they're still in that 500 square foot condo. Or maybe if they're an older millennial, they're in their first small detached home, but they're nowhere near finished that rapid real estate engagement part of their life when everything's changing. Kids, schools, raises, that give them more economic wealth and make them want to live in a dream neighborhood. All these things create for people, call it 25 to 45, just a flurry of real estate activity. So we've got a decade here of that huge demographic trading dramatically.
I like that answer.
Yeah. And then you add immigration. And Canada is the most successful country in the world. Sometimes we slipped a second behind Australia. But if you look at Australia and Canada, we're the 2 most successful economic drivers of economic wealth for our current citizens by inviting the best and brightest from around the world. We've done an amazing job.
Phil, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want you to just go slightly deeper. What do you mean by most successful with economic drivers? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
I know there's somebody who's watching who hasn't heard that term before, so I really want you to dive into that for a second.
That's a great point.
So we do a lot more than the United States does in terms of welcoming refugees. We did some really good work during the Syrian refugee crisis, but it's a tiny little part of what we do in terms of overall immigration. Much proportionally, much bigger than the United States, especially under Trump, but it's still tiny. Call it on 400,000, maybe 20,000 would be humanitarian-based immigration. Almost all of it is economic-based immigration, where people are it's like you're Harvard and you're looking at applicants from around the world, and who do you take? You take the smartest kids, right? Because you can. So we're taking the smartest people from around the world, the people with engineering degrees, with PhDs in biochemistry, with skills. with skills like steel workers or millwrights, things that we don't have enough of. And there's a group of people in immigration that evaluate the needs today and in the future, and they comb through all these applications from around the world, and they pick the best and brightest, the picks of the litter, and our value with highly qualified immigrants. It's like coming out of high school. If you've got a 95% average, you get to choose the good universities to go to. If you're an immigrant with an engineering degree, and say your spouse has one too, man, you're like a kid coming out of high school with a 95%. Canada wants you, the US wants you, the UK wants you, France wants you, Germany wants you, everybody wants you. And Canada has moved up the list and up the list and up the list. The other part of that equation is we seem to be able, and we're not perfect. I marched in the Black Lives Matter marches last summer, along with a lot of people, because I wanted to make sure that we lend our voice to the challenges associated with racial and gender discrimination in our country. We didn't make it just an American problem.
And there is a lot of that problem here.
There is, but I'd say comparatively, we're more successful than almost any country in the world. And I might say than any country in the world. I can't say that definitively.
I agree with you.
More than Australia, because Australia has its harder edge when it comes to welcoming new people, even though they have about the same number of people proportionally. More than Germany, way more than France, and way more than the United States. More successful at multiculturalism, is inviting new cultures in. And the research shows, and this really heartens me. We've been here a long time. My ancestors were United Empire loyalists. Back in the 1700s, we fled the United States in the American Revolution because we picked the wrong side. And a lot of Canadians, the old Canadians, came from that exodus. We were a little bit like people, Muslims fleeing into India after separation or partition, I should say, or like what's something more recent? Anyway, when there's a revolution and you're on the wrong side, you're persecuted. So we've been here a long time. Anyways, it's too easy to chat with you guys. I go off on tangents.
It's all good. No, Phil. Everyone who's watching, who's an REC insiders, knows that we're the kings and queens of going on tangents. We just banter and go. And Simos's word is jibber jabber. We do a lot of that around here.
But I asked a question. I think we got the answer,
which is
it's a good decade ahead, brother. Good decade.
So if that is the answer, I think that's what I want. That section.
Yep.
Because the tangents that you said, they're tangents, they're really not. We're talking about why the next decade is good, and that's because Canada gets the recipe right. It's a welcoming, it's a thriving culture. It is where people want to be. And when we know that our closest competitor that does it as good as us is literally on the other side of the planet, we got some good mother-sucking days ahead.
I really like that. That's a great point.
Yes.
Because even in the early stages of the lockdown, we were all talking about this, that again, we didn't get it perfect. We are not perfect, but it doesn't matter what side, if you're, if you like the blue government, the red government, or the orange one, whatever it is, at the end of the day, we took care of our people.
Yes.
And
we took care of each other.
We took care of each other. We all knew that, but the world was watching. The world was watching, and they said, wow, those guys and gals up in Canada there, they got something right. They got something going on. And now you're starting to see and hear why so many people want to come in here. That poses a big problem, though, in my opinion, because if we're talking about 1.2 million people, it's safe to say 50% of them, if not a little bit more than that, want to come into the greater Toronto area. Would you guys agree, Phil? I mean, am I off?
Yeah, Southern Ontario,
right? Okay.
Typically takes half of the new Canadians.
Here we're in trouble.
Now, here's the concern, because for anybody who's new, who's watching, we have this real estate island that we all live on here, specifically in the Greater Toronto area. You cannot build to the north of us because of the Greenbelt legislation, a legislation that came into place about 16 years ago now. And we have on the south of us, we have the lake. Haven't figured out what Dubai has and being able to build on water. We haven't got there yet. And so we have this real estate island.
We'll figure it out one day.
We'll figure it out one day, hopefully. We have all these people coming in and we don't have enough supply. It's
right.
basic. And we say it over and over again, but I always like to remind people that the brain needs to hear things over and over again, because the first time you hear it, I think it can only retain 13% of something that you listen to or read. But with that many people coming in, not enough supply, it's basic supply and demand, values will continue to go upwards, right? And so again, for anybody who's watching, please get your questions in. We're here with Mr. Phil Soper, President and CEO of Canada's largest real estate company. Go tell a friend. All you got to do is press share. It's right underneath the screen. You'll see the share button. Bring on your friends, colleagues, and neighbors. We'd love meeting new people. Let them come see the crazy Greek and the crazy Indian guy. Let them come on in, ask questions. I'm watching the comments here.
And the crazy Canuck.
Ah,
right.
Well, I was going
Canada.
to say Captain Canada. I was coming around to you, Mr. Phil Soper. Let's talk about the commercial sector, Simos. I mean, you handle that for REC Canada. That's your division. You really, you got your feet to the ground there. Let's go down this commercial route, because a lot of people, there's a lot of buzz right now about, are employees going to start going back to work? Are corporations going to bring people back? Is there going to be a hybrid? There's some vacant signs that we're seeing in downtown Toronto. What does this all mean to a commercial investor? Is there opportunity, or stay away with a 6-foot pole?
Yeah. So I'm going to start off again, and we couldn't have a better guest to discuss this. So I'm going to give my my view from the trenches, because I'm literally transacting like a madman right now. I've never, my practice, I am a commercial broker. That's my trade. Forget above and beyond this whole thing we do. We have 40 agents, this, that, and the other. That's because we're crazy. But like my job, when I'm out there jobbing, is a commercial broker. So right now, like, we've literally transacted over 40 mil in the last 60 days in commercial real estate. We've done some brick and beam office transactions. We're in the last stages of due diligence on a 20,000 square foot medical office in Vaughan. So I'm all over the GTA. We're looking at multifam, and we're literally listing a portfolio of development properties in one of the hottest markets in the GTA, the Oakville Milton corridor. So I have sample sizes, and I'm having conversations literally every day, and I'm going to give you guys a 5-minute insight into what's happening.
Go.
And what I want from Phil, upon me delivering kind of my notes from the street, is to kind of parallel that with a high level data and what policy is upcoming, because I know you speak to policymakers consistently in what's happening and how we can bring those two together. So
Simeon, whereas the underlying motivation of residential real estate consumers is starting to be well known. I want more, I want more, I want more, I want better. And there's a clear demand curve there, and it's rising. It's more up for debate on the commercial side, particularly in office. Industrial, going crazy, right? It's insanity. It's insanity. If you think about industrial, for your viewers, think about Amazon or Walmart.ca warehousing facilities, and just imagine all the growth in that kind of business. Anyway, farms doing really well. Multis are doing really well in the residential and mixed use. What's really the big question mark, I guess, would be large scale retail And Brookfield is the second largest mall owner in the world. So imagine that in your portfolio, not in Canada, but in the United States through general growth.
I'll stop you. I just want to stop you for one second. The company that you are the CEO of is the second largest mall owner in the world.
No, that's a different division of Brookfield.
I understand. Yeah. Your bridge market. I understand. Yeah. But I think we have, when I said we have the right guest, I think you speak to your co-CEOs on the other side of the wall.
So that's a riskier. You know what? That is a riskier investment. Now, Brookfield got into this business relatively recently, within the last decade, when it was clear that the online world was growing rapidly and that bricks and mortar retail were under attack. Think of Barnes and Noble versus Amazon, right? Sure. And they did it as a contrarian investment that basically said, great malls. And the malls they own in the US are like Yorkville and Toronto, real high-end malls in great locations, near big arteries, lots of land. So their vision was this land was valuable and retail wasn't dead, and that it would transpose into entertainment, office, living, and retail. And that these great malls would be forever in kind of a state of evolution. It wasn't that they saw retail not changing, but they got hit really hard and unexpectedly by essentially being put out of, and their tenants, a lot of them couldn't pay rent, and it's been a real tough year for retail owners. On the office side, so I think that's still a good long-term strategy. But cash is king, and I saw a question from one of your listeners pop up. Does that mean I should rush into the market because you see the future being bright? And no matter what the bidding war is, I should just buy. And the answer is obviously no. You need a good advisor. You don't want to be stupid ever, on a given transaction. Even though, what do you guys say? If you hold for a long time, you're fine. I can't remember. You're very clever with the way.
Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait.
It's right in the market. It's time in the market.
Right. So basically, don't be a flipper. Take a longer term view. And even then, you don't want to make a stupid transaction today. And remember, cash is king. So for these guys, for me, for you as individual investors, you need to do cash flow forecasting, and you don't want to buy something so that you put your cash at risk, that you can't make your commitments, be it to mortgage or life or whatever. So, you need to do cash forecasting. You need to make good, sensible decisions. But overall, investing in Toronto residential real estate right now, to answer your realtor, is a good long-term bet from my perspective. But back to commercial. Office is a big question mark. I believe we will see this will have triggered a re-looking at our office needs and a lot of hybrid use of office real estate, but that we're going to be back. And we're going to be back collaborating. We're going to be in offices, but probably in a much more fluid way, a much more hybrid way than before. You guys know we introduced this big digital platform in 2020, RLP Sphere, which allowed people in our company to operate on any device from anywhere because it was all cloud-based. That's the way I see the office of the future, very fluid. You can be in the office, you can be out of the office. It won't impede your productivity. It depends on your work group. It depends on your manager. It depends on the kind of business you are. But people do like to collaborate in person. They do get things out of collaboration. Carolyn Chang, who you know well, my COO, shared something with me yesterday, actually. And it was some research that said heads down productivity, by all accounts, actually bumped up a little bit in most industries during the pandemic because people translated commute time into working time. But what took an incredible hit was creativity. So if you're in a knowledge business where creativity is necessary to stay alive, and I can tell you that is definitely running a real estate company like you guys do and I do. You need to be constantly changing, looking over your shoulder, glancing, but staring to the future and drawing a map that takes you to somewhere different than you are today, or you're just going to get rolled over by the competition. And you need creativity. That took a big hit. So my guess is there's going to be more growth in residential than office as one subset of the commercial real estate space over the next 2 to 3 years as we settle things down. But in the longer term, I believe we had an office shortage in this country coming into the pandemic, and we'll quickly use it up again, even if there's a pause in development. And I think there will be a pause in development.
We're gonna go into Q&A. I mean, Phil, we can speak to you all day, but we want to be very respectful of your time. So guys, bring in your questions. We're really good with going back up. I'm going to go right to the top of the chat box here and make sure that we rapid fire some questions.
Sure. And I'll be fast in my answers.
We'll try anyways.
Can I get the first question? Get
the first question, Simos.
Phil, what is your favorite color?
I'd say red.
Okay, and what is your favorite investment asset class?
Real estate.
Okay. I just. What is your favorite real estate investment? Are you a buy and holder of income property? Do you like new construction? Do you like multifamily commercial? What do you personally? What is your next investment?
Well, the investment, and I haven't honestly been a big investor in real estate. I own a little bit too much of it, that we use organically. Embarrassingly, but I like real estate anyway. But the investments I've made are with one particular partner back in my hometown in Calgary, and we've been paused for a few years now because of the oil. I might get back into it, but it's been in either small multis or singles that we add value to and resell. No flipping. But it's invest, add value, and resell. Small stuff. I like doing it because I really like her. And we've been friends since we were kids. And it's kind of fun to do business together and make some money.
I just want to know what Canada's #1 real estate guy likes. and of course,
but I'm definitely long on personal real estate. It's and it has done me very well for my whole life. So even if it sucked from here on in, I'd still be ahead.
Well, the nice thing is the question that we asked earlier in the chat to all of our insiders, leave us a heart if you held on to your properties, your income properties during the pandemic. It was overwhelmingly yes that people held
That's
on.
good.
And so that just makes, we're getting goosebumps just thinking of it, because we now know that if it was specifically in the GTA, it went up by 13.1, 13.2%. So that's awesome. Next time you see us, I like vodka, Simos likes gin. That's up to you guys. But we'll leave it. That's a different conversation.
I like vodka and gin.
Well, there you go. So we're gonna mix it both. When we can actually have a drink here at the Shops of Don Millsville, you're the
That'll be nice, man.
And we're gonna invite our mutual friends.
Or even just a coffee together would be good.
Hey Phil, we're gonna invite.
And I don't have my REC mug, and I've got one.
Well,
I apologize.
It's
I apologize.
I was just saying we're obviously gonna invite our mutual friends, Mr. Christopher and Jeffrey Slido.
To join love those guys. Golf buddies.
God, there you go. So let me jump into the Q&A. Sergio asks, do you see the record amount of purpose-built rentals hitting the market further affecting the rental market in Toronto? Phil, to you first, please.
It's a good question. So we had a lot of purpose-built rentals back in the 70s, 80s, because tax policy made it favorable. And then it disappeared. And it was driven by fiscal policy and the rental stock in the 90s, 2000s. It moved to individual investors, like we talked about earlier. Someone who owns a unit, maybe 5 units, maybe 10 units. But they basically didn't own a building. And that was the predominant source of net new inventory for our rental stock. And it was just starting to change before the introduction of the Fair Housing Plan in 2017 that the previous government put in place, and the implementation of rent controls took some of the shine off that apple. There's an old line that the quickest way to defeat a city is by introducing rent controls. It's really tough to be an investor and know that you're hamstrung. Now, the current government made some changes to that, and we've seen an increase again in the pace of new purpose-built rental. Again, going back to pre-pandemic levels, if we take that as a base, the vacancy rate in Toronto, in the GTA, was very, very low. It was critically low. Yeah. So we could have used a lot more. We can use a lot more affordable housing. Call it social housing if you want. I like a broader term, affordable. We could use a lot more rental, and we could use a lot more accommodation in general. So will there be a rise in purpose-built rental? I believe there will be, because the savvy money behind these big projects, they know the immigration numbers, they know where people end up living, they know the demographic outlook of this country and where people are going to live and that sort of thing. Now, they might be a little cautious right now because rents fell so precipitously during 2020, as we talked about earlier in the call. And even though condo sales were up 62% year over year in February, that's volume, not price. There's still a lot of spooked people out there. So I think it might be a little bit slower than the purchase side of the business.
I just wanted to make a quick comment to what Phil is saying with purposeful rental and the savvy money, knowing the numbers and the road ahead. I think that reinforces his 10-year outlook. And I also want to say, because our community specifically, Phil, they're significantly, they're very educated real estate investors. The majority of our community, and the people who are not, we're educating as we go along. We are strategic partners with a number of companies that are in the building space. To name a few: Graybrook, Equiton, Emblem, First Avenue Capital, Marlin Spring, Western Wealth, IRR. So all these major Canadian houses that pool literally hundreds of millions of dollars. If you look at their last 3-year new business acquisitions, it's all in the multifamily purpose-built acquisitions all over the GTA, all over Montreal, all over Ottawa, all over Vancouver. A lot of those companies have crossed into the Florida markets, the Arizona markets, and they are making returns that are unheard of because of the stability and the demand in those markets for housing. So just to go to Sergio's point, I think anything with low rents in the city of Toronto, Sergio, is going to be short-lived. The problem.
My take on that is I welcome all these rental buildings.
No, we
need them. Period. Like the baker needs more bread when there's a lineup outside.
More flour.
The more flour, obviously. Yes. You could tell that I don't really do any cooking or anything.
But you do know how to eat.
Yeah, I do know how to eat. We need this. We need this inventory. It's a great sign, yes. Sergio, not to be concerned, because you're going to be buying and holding. Let's jump over to the one and only Donna Hoskins out of BC, a dear, dear friend and loyal supporter of the REC. Her question is, what do you think of CMHC getting involved with controlling the market?
Yeah, there's a new leader in CMHC. The previous leader stumbled towards the end of his term. When we came out with our forecast, which Simeon graciously called the most accurate of the major forecasters back in the
and you are referring to Mr. Evan Siddall's
that's right, and he's gone, right? He's moved on, and so that's fine. But he took CMHC down a path where they lost some credibility. They lost a lot of market share. So They used to be the dominant mortgage insurer in the country, double the market share of the next largest company, which was Genworth Sagen. And during 2020, 1 year, Sagen overtook them and is now the largest mortgage insurance company, Genworth Sagen. So they made some stumbles. The new person has some work to do to regain the trust of Canadians, policymakers, I bet, of politicians, because they don't like it when a government crown corp brings ridicule, to be honest, upon government and negativity. So I'm hopeful that CMHC, Canada's housing agency, will become they're a source of great data and insight. And they're also a really important agency in providing affordable housing in our country. We can't lose track of that. When home prices escalate rapidly, we can't leave people behind. They need to put a roof over their heads. So they have a huge role to play there.
Had this question multiple times in the chat right now. Forecast on interest rates.
Interest rates are going to remain low through this year and probably into 2023. Even though it looks like, from the perspective of the real estate industry, that inflation is rearing its ugly head and is going to wreak havoc on the economy, there are a lot of parts of the economy that are wounded, that are in bad shape. The overall recovery is going to take right through 2022 into 2023. So I wouldn't expect any material. There'll be a little bit, particularly with the 5-year fix, which is a popular mortgage product in Canada, because it tends to follow bond rates, and bond rates tend to follow future views on economic growth, interest rates, that sort of thing. So there will be some inching up, but you got to remember, 1.5% for a 5-year fixed mortgage is not normal, right?
Incredible.
And even if it was 2 or 2.5, it would still count as some of the lowest borrowing costs in the history of our nation. So don't expect interest rates to really have a material impact on the market for the near term, for the next couple of years.
I mean, we tell the story here on Brunch a lot about when we purchased homes back in 2006, 2007. Interest rates were 4.5%, 5-year fix, but they just came down from about 5.5% to 6.5%. We thought we were robbing banks at that time at 4.5%. Right? I mean, now at 1.5%, and for everybody who's watching, be prepared for the rates to go up to 2.5% to 3% in the next, maybe half a decade, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it may be, but be okay with that as well. Like, that's historically low. The amount of stories I'm sure everyone in the chat and yourself, Phil, and I know my parents can talk about 18% interest rates, right? I think Benjamin Tal, senior economist from a CIBC, said it best not too long ago, within like the last 6 months. He said, you don't need to worry about these 6.5%, 7% interest rates really ever coming back in the next decade or even 2 decades. We get used to having average interest rates on mortgages around that 4 to 5% range, yes, which I still think, to somebody's point, comment here in the chat, even in the GTA, even with interest rates going up to say 4%, there still is opportunities that lie in the marketplace where you could have cash flow. Bro, you're not going to have $1,000 a month cash flow positive, but you can find neutral. And the worst case, you might need to put in $200 with the vodka that I'm going to be buying. Chris Slidham, Jeff Slidham, Simos, and Phil with some nachos. That's going to cost me over $200.
Yes, it will.
I don't think I should be complaining about $200 from my left pocket to my right pocket. Simos,
let me say something very quickly.
Yeah.
If I hear Okay, I'm not Benjamin Tall. I'm not Phil Soper. A nice, eloquent, beautiful language.
Simos,
every investor,
we might have kids watching.
We might have
please.
kids. Then put some earmuffs on them because it's coming out. It's coming out. Don't be an entitled little bitch because to have money at 1.5%, and to think that that's the norm. Give your head a shake.
Yeah.
This is a time to make.
No, you guys are right. But and just so we don't throw your viewers off somehow, it's not going to 4 anytime soon. You know,
right.
For the next couple of years, they're going to be really low. Like think 2, not 4. So they're just not going anywhere for the next couple of years.
And I know I've been given a bunch of shout outs to Chris Slightum. For a lot of our insiders, you know who he is. He's the broker. He's been on a ton of podcasts and brunches, and he was at the real estate marathon, the 12-hour nonstop investment seminar workshop we did. He talks about this a lot, about considering a 10-year mortgage even right now. Like there's a very strong argument there that because it does something to your mindset. It makes you think now of real estate in a 10-year window. Right?
It's now a hold. It's a hold. It's fixed.
It's fixed. You don't need to worry about rates going up and down. You won't care what happens with them because you're locking in for 10 years.
If I told you it's 12 o'clock, what would you say? This is so bad.
Yes.
We've destroyed
Phil. We told you we were going to have you here for an hour. You are a man that brings immense value.
My wife is pacing.
I'm so sorry. I just realized the time. I'm
so sorry. But
it's okay, guys. I can spend all day with you.
I know. Thank you so much. Please give us blue like buttons and hearts if you want Phil Soper to make another appearance in the next couple of months.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Light up this chat box right now with likes and hearts if you want Phil Soper back, which I know you all do. There's a couple of questions we didn't get to. I'll make sure that we get an email sent.
Can I do a fun charity drive right now?
And here comes the hearts, and here comes the
fun
likes.
charity. Fun charity.
Fun charity.
I will give $250 of Jas's money to your favorite charity if someone answers below what is Phil Soper's favorite color.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Great one. Simos, say that again. Say it again.
I will give away $250 of Jas's money to your favorite charity if you can. Go in the notes below. What is Phil Soper's
first
favorite
person?
color?
First person to answer.
That is cool.
What is Phil Soper's favorite color? We will donate my money. I guess Simos already said it. $250 of my money over to your favorite charity. First person who answers that question, Mr. Phil Soper. Thank you so much.
Hey, you guys, you take care. Love you both.
Thank you.
Stay busy.
Thank you. We will. To all the insiders that are watching, this was another segment of Brunch with REC, which happens every other Saturday at 10:30 a.m. We've told you this before. 6 to 8 times a year, we will have an exclusive opportunity that we launch. Make sure you watch for your emails in the next coming weeks. We're working on something, working through the due diligence of a couple of opportunities.
It's 99%.
It's 99%. It happens on the off week that we don't do a brunch most of the time. So make sure you watch for your email. If you want to be kept up to date with an exclusive opportunity, we don't have anything today for you, so your wallet and checkbooks are safe right now. For now, I want you to send an email to info@reccanada.com, info@reccanada.com with the subject line letting us know that you want us to keep you up to date. There's 66 people. My favorite hockey player, Mario Lemieux. I ask of you guys one other thing today. If there's 66 people, we should be getting 66 emails at info@reccanada.com with a topic that you would like us to cover in the next upcoming brunches. Please send a quick email. It will take you 5 seconds to do. We want to hear from you. Oh, great session. The comments are coming. Phil Soper was amazing.
Did anybody get the color?
We love it. Nobody came out with the color yet.
Who?
Remember, first person who picks Phil Soper's favorite color will get $250 donated to your favorite
from
charity.
Jas's money.
What was Phil Soper's favorite color? It's not that hard. Did we get the answers?
Well, who's the first?
But who's the first person? Sorry?
Sarah?
What's the
Okay,
name?
well, Sarah, tell us what your favorite charity is, and I'm going to make
Sarah,
sure Jazzy hits
Sarah,
250
Sarah,
balls.
you are the winner today. Sarah, you are the winner. It was the first answer. I apologize. My chat group was a little slow. Somebody said purple, red. Yeah. So Sarah, please send us Sarah there we go. Rochford. Yes, I know this name for sure. Send a quick email with your favorite charity, and we'll make sure we make that
and
donation.
also, if we don't have your address, Tai, if you want to check in with her, let's get her the book, A Couple of Cups, just for the hell of it. And of course, we are going to make a donation. I would never make Jas pay for it. We will make a donation, my friend, to Sarah's favorite charity. Let us know what that is.
Okay. And to everyone else, as I said, there's 62 people still. We're not that low, guys. Now I see 61. We're still expecting 61 emails to info@reccanada.com.
Topics.
And all you got to do is just put the topic line in the subject. I don't need you to put anything in the body of the email. I don't read bodies of emails anyways. So just put it in the top, in the subject, whatever topics you would like us to cover in upcoming brunches. There's some new insiders that are mentioning, sorry, this was my first one ever. You need to send that email to info@reccanada because it's the only way that you'll be kept up to date with content, market stats, brunches, and obviously 6 to 8 times a year, an exclusive opportunity. Our friend Sarah said Sick Kids Children's Foundation, which is one of our favorites as well.
We actually have the Simon Jr.
So that's very, very easy.
Simos. I don't want to forget, this weekend means a lot to a lot of cultures. Last week is celebrated the Persian community, and a lot of the Muslim community celebrated their new year.
Yes.
Which is, I believe, Navroz Mubarak. To
Navroz
all of you
Mubarak.
who celebrate it. Passover for the Jewish community. And this Sunday, the Catholic community has Palm Sunday with Easter the following week.
What was it? Greek's Independence Day recently that I saw. What was that, buddy?
The 25th is Greek Independence Day.
Yeah.
So that's a big celebration for the Greek community, and our Easter is coming up.
What would
in
one
May.
say? Happy Independence Day, or like?
Well, it's surrounding freedom. So I actually found out something huge.
Okay, go ahead.
That I did not know, and it was my cousin who posted it. In our home city, I'm from the Northwest Canada. The actual day that we celebrate our Independence Day, the National Independence, and you just wish good wishes, and you just remember what it cost to get that freedom after 400 years. But something far more recent, during the Second World War, 1,800 of the Greek Jewish community of my city is the day that they're remembered. Because what happened 25th of March, 1944, I believe, they literally ripped people out of their homes from the Jewish community. Hardcore shit. But I'm just saying, like, this is why we have to remember these things. And this is why we have to enjoy and wish everyone the best all the time. So the Remembrance Day for the Jewish injustices in my city is remembered on our national holiday. So from the moment you say, cheers to freedom, also remember.
How do we say that? Cheers to freedom in Greek.
Χρόνια πολλά και στην ελευθερία.
It's all Greek to me. I
Zito
can
to
never
ethnos.
say
It
that.
means Zito to ethnos means congratulations to our country. Zito to ethnos.
I love it. Well, to all the communities and to our community, the REC community. Look, we have a blast. We get to be ourselves. But if you never watch, we would have nobody to talk to. We probably still would do this anyways, just myself and Simos and Steven and Laura and Clem and Bobby and Tyler. But it's a lot more fun because you guys join us every other Saturday. Thank you so much. I see, Bernadette, your comment, if you're still here, just shoot us an email at info@reccanada, if you don't mind, info@reccanada.com, because it's going to be a lot easier and our team can package it. And we are just massive reverse engineers, because what we're going to do is take those topics and bring guests or just have those conversations, because Brunch with REC every other Saturday live on Facebook is where real estate conversations happen. You guys have an amazing, amazing weekend wherever you are, physically and wherever you are in your life. You're here now, and that's okay. And we will start to move, hopefully, the needle at least in your real estate portfolio. We would love to help you to do that. But I'm going to say, have an amazing, amazing weekend. Simos, get us out of here.
First time ever you've left me speechless. I want to say God bless every single person in this community. We love you. We appreciate that you always choose to be with us. Enjoy your weekend. Be productive. Get some rest. Be happy. We'll see you in a couple weeks. God bless.